Hey everyone, it's Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. I was asked to do a quick video on the Administrative Code 12-126, which I'm sure all of you are hearing about right now because of our former unions and the city of New York trying to strip away a code that we have had that offered us protection since 1967. And so let me explain exactly what it is and how it came about. So in 1966, Medicare came around and Mayor Lindsay at the time wanted to offer it to all employees that were eligible and retirees. Now, for employees that were still working, it was very easy for him to do. All he had to do was file a personnel order. But for the retirees, he couldn't do a personnel order. He had to change the law because he was already paying for health care for the retirees anyway. So what he did was he had asked the city council, hey, would you legislate this? It would be a great thing. It would save the city money. At the time, Medicare B premiums were $3 a month. So the city said, look, we could save money. We can reduce, instead of a whole 100% cost of insurance, we could just pay that last 20% that Medicare doesn't pay. So the plans would be less expensive. It would be great. So win-win. So they didn't want to duplicate a benefit that was already offered. They just wanted to cover the part that wasn't covered. So council persons Mario Marola and Edmund Farrell from the Bronx legislated it, brought it to the council, passed unanimously. It was supported by elected officials, the mayor, the council, the unions, the retirees. Everyone thought it was great, right? Over the years, there were some greedy mayors that thought that they could take away the Medicare B reimbursement, because of whether they thought they had a fiscal crisis. Even the fiscal crisis of the 70s didn't yield any damage to the retirees. So this is kind of upsetting on its face. So what exactly did the law say? So I'm going to show it to you on the screen, and then I'm also going to show you the proposed change that OLR and the city or the unions are trying to make. So let's share my screen. Okay, this is Administrative Code 12-126. And the pertinent part, because it's a long code, we're going to start with number 1. The city will pay the entire cost of health insurance coverage for city employees, retirees, and their dependents, not to exceed 100% of the full cost of HIP HMO on a category basis. Now, before I continue, let me just clarify a few things here. So this coverage, this cap, HIP HMO, it is the HIP rate. What is the HIP rate? Well, if you don't know what the HIP rate is, because HIP is usually offered at no cost to an employee or a retiree, you have to go to the COBRA sheets that are offered by OLR's on OLR's website. And you have to understand COBRA is it's 102% of the cost. So when you look at the cost on that rate sheet, just back out 2%, and that should be about what you would pay as a cost. So this is the cost for the city, because the city offers this plan to us as a basic plan. So this is the benchmark. This is the cap. This is where they will pay up to the cap. So if that cap, let's just say hypothetically, is about $950 a month, they pay up to that. Now, let's say you wanted a better plan or a different plan, and that plan was $1,500. Well, they'll pay up to the $950 and you pay the difference. That's why we all pay up for the other plans if they happen to offer something that you want or need. What is the category basis? The category is individual and family, and it's always been individual and family, period. That is the only thing that you will see where it talks about this code is what offers you a protection, because there is no protection for health insurance coverage, health insurance caps, health insurance costs in any collective bargaining agreement whatsoever. This code is what you had. In the early parts of this lawsuit, the lawyers used to say to us, well, where's the contract? Isn't it in a contract? No, because we had the law. This is the law that provides a cap of what the city has to pay up to for every employee, every retiree, and every one of their dependents. That is the HIP HMO cap on a category basis of individual and family. That's your protection. No matter what happened since 1967, it was never diminished. Now, all of a sudden, well, we'll get to that. Comma, here we go, category basis, comma, or in the alternative, In the case of any class of individuals eligible for coverage by a plan jointly agreed upon by the city and the municipal labor committee to be a benchmark plan for such class, not to exceed the full cost of such benchmark plan as applied to such class. Now, this is the troubling language. Any class of individuals. What the hell is a class? Is a class uniformed? Is a class civilian? Is a class Medicare? Is a class non-Medicare? Is a class Black? Is it white? Is it women? Is it men? What is it? And this, leaving this like this, and I'm sorry to say this, that is ugly language, because this is going to create a class of haves and have-nots. Now, you already saw some of our videos about the MLC. The MLC is about 100 unions, yet about 3-4 of them pretty much rule how the votes go, right? They have to have like 1,000 something votes. They get 1 vote per every 250 people. So I'm told, because no one wants to tell me the rules, because I guess it's super secret squirrel. So the weighted vote comes from DC 37, the largest union in the city, UFT, Harry Nispoli from the sanitation, and Greg Floyd from 237 Teamsters. That is what the points are. So let's go to the next one. So pretty much if those 4 unions vote, then they could overrule any one of the other 100 unions, 90 unions in the MLC. So if Harry and Henry and Michael are sitting around a table and they're pissed off at one of the unions at bargaining time, they're going to say, you know what, that guy's a son of a gun. I don't really like him. Let's see if we peg this plan to that union or to that group or to that class. That's not really right. But really what they're trying to do here is they know that this statute protects us. They know that this statute is the only thing that's stopping the city right now from winning their court case that we are in court with them. So we have appellate court arguments in October, and we believe the city knows they're gonna lose. And if they lose that argument, then this would explain why they're doing this, is because they think they're going to lose, so they have to change the law that we won our first case on. But shame on the unions, because they helped legislate this, they helped protect it over the decades since 1967. So why do they want to do this? Well, you know, here's the rest of the story. Because they used the money in the Health Insurance Stabilization Fund. They made a deal with the city that they would save $600 million recurring. By the end of this fiscal year, they're going to owe the city about $1.2 billion. And they're too lame to fess up that they made a mistake and try to pay back the debt that they owed and come up with some interesting ways in how they can come up with it. See, their first mistake was agreeing to recurring $600 million savings every single year. So basically what they're agreeing to is continuously reducing health benefits for every employee, every city retiree, and every city dependent. So that was their first mistake. Here in this situation, I don't quite understand why not one of the unions are saying to the city, hey, the judge declared that funding this on the backs of retirees was illegal. You can't charge them a penalty premium, hence the contract is not funded. And remember, when it came to collective bargaining, every union had to roll in the 2018 MLC agreement into their collective bargaining agreements. They're called CBAs. So those collective bargaining agreements, those CBAs, usually has a provision, and the provision says if any part of this contract is found to be invalid, it just negates that one part, but not the whole CBA. Well, hello, guys. I mean, I have an ILR degree. I'd be one of those people that should have said to you guys, and I have said it to you, and I don't understand why no one's actually asking your 100 lawyers, why are you being compelled to pay $1.2 billion or have this leverage over your head when the city and the unions agreed to this agreement and it didn't come to fruition because of a court ruling? And if that's the case, then the unions don't owe you, the city, $1 billion. You're probably still tied to the agreement, and that's for you guys to figure out how the hell to get out of. But in essence, 12-126 for the retirees and anyone who's interested in what it means, it does provide two protections, that HIP HMO benchmark. And if you scroll down to the bottom, it does provide for Medicare B reimbursement, and it always went up incrementally through the decades, and then till I think it was 1986, I believe it was, it did provide that the city shall reimburse covered employees in an amount equal to 100% of the Medicare B premium rate applicable to that year. So those are the two coverages, and trust me, they open this up. I wouldn't be shocked if the unions decided to negotiate away the rest of the code in another year or two or three, because they don't know where the hell to find the savings that they promised the city that they would end up taking. So that's 12-126-101. It provides two protections. It's been around since 1967. It has survived the 70s, the crisis, the city being bankrupt, $11 billion in debt. It survived Abraham Beam. It survived Mayor Koch. It survived Mayor Giuliani. No one ever diminished a healthcare benefit, and the unions always protected us. But because the unions screwed up and that they're now in debt, or they owe something and they don't want it to come out of their own pocket. Also, I'm going to release another video. The unions knew what they were doing. Do not be fooled. Michael Mulgrew did a video. Michael Mulgrew from the UFT did a video that the city didn't want to pay the last 20% of our healthcare plans, those Medicare eligible retirees. They wanted the cost off their balance sheet completely. So they told the unions, you do this, we'll give you da 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 da. And he actually says it. The city said, if you do this, we'll give you the money in your welfare funds. Quid pro quo, we've been saying this for a year and a half, right? But guess what? They're doing it again. The unions are being told, actually the MLC is telling their family unions, their umbrella organizations, the city said, we'll forgive that $1.2 billion that we owe you, that you owe us. Change the code, dump those retirees into a Medicare Advantage plan, put out an RFP for the active plan, kill senior care possibly. What else did they want to do? Tiered hospitals, increase co-pays, blah, blah, blah. Do this and we'll forgive the $1.2 billion that you owe us. Fact. Sad to say. So that's it, folks. 12-126 and exactly why the unions are selling their souls and us to pay off a debt that they don't know how the hell to get out of. You know, if you're going to become a union president, make sure you take labor relations education and you learn exactly how to be a labor leader. You learn how to bargain, and you do not allow the city to say that they're not going to collectively bargain with you until this debacle is settled, because that's an improper practice and a violation under Taylor. Have a nice day.